Hi, Limit Break Overdrive with another build guide video, this time for once again Boneshatter Juggernaut. I've played this as a league starter for the past 5 leagues, I believe, and I've been making guides too, and this is always such a blast to play as a melee Andy. It's super strong, super tanky, as you can see in the background. I'm just face tanking the form like it's nothing, and it's a roll invitation. It's just super tanky and has a lot of damage. Uh, I think I've played it the hardest in Trials of the Ancestor, and I killed everything. I killed the Fear. I did basically everything apart from Hoobers because I can't be fucked doing them. I've never tried them even, but it probably can. I don't know, just with more gear, I guess. And again, I suggest that as a league starter, because for melee it's probably the best league starter in my opinion. I have another build guide for Lacerate, which is good, but not as tanky exactly, and not as much damage, but they're both good. But again, a really good and true and tested build that you can trust, because it's gonna take you to the end game. So without further ado, let me just show you what I have in store for you in POE. Again, the build has not changed that much since last league, because they did not make any changes that were impacting it. They changed the mouse button one thing with Enduring Cry, but I was already not using it on that build because we already generate endurance charges quite easily with the inexorable notable. So on that regard, not a lot of changes. The changes will most likely be in what I'm gonna be seeing in this video. First, the notes section is pretty massive, talking about helmet crafting, weapon, some PSA at the start, questions I've been asked quite often, mana reservation, about cluster jewel setups and no cluster jewel setups, because I include both. It's a league start, so maybe you won't get access to the cluster jewels for a while. You might be playing SSF. Talking about precise technique and having accuracy, more accuracy than your maximum life to get the damage. And now in POB, it's in fact right above your total life when you do use precise technique, which is really nice. If you use Brass Dome like I really love doing, that's not going to be an issue because strength stopped giving you life, so you will have less life, but you're going to be more tanky in the end. The Eldritch Implicits, that could be good as an alternative. Again, you can be lacking the currency. Other stats that are useful, and early leveling. And I also have a video on my YouTube made a few leagues ago. The early game doesn't really change that much for leveling, so it's still up to date. You can look and watch that video. Tier 1 maps gear set is something I do with the gear sets. It's just what kind of gear you can expect to have once you kill Kitava in Act 10. Like basically life and resist and like some damage on the axe and whatnot. So it's just like a baseline of things you want to follow. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. And now I want to talk about the skill gems. I do include the awakened gems, but they're not ticked. But I mean, it's a league start, maybe you won't get them, but if you do tick them, you get more damage, and you also go here and tick Intimidate and Crush, because this is what the quality is doing. Brutality gives Crush on hit, melee fist damage gives Intimidate on hit, and we have Fortify here. There's a new Paraglove that dropped from the Uber Exarch that does give more fortification and fortify on hit for strike skills, so if you however fit that in the build, you will be able to replace that with probably Ruthless support. It's going to be the best, but again, you would have to drop these gloves, which gives you suppression, range on hit, and whatnot. So I mean, if you're there and killing Uber Exarch, you probably don't need my advice for that, but I mean, it's going to be a new possibility. Also, in the last few leagues, there's been ways to get suppression or fortify other than on gems and the skill tree. 2 leagues ago with the tattoos, and this league with the Primalist Ascendancy and the charms. So maybe we're going to be getting some new mods on gear with the new crafting system that will give you more of that. If so, then you'll be able to just get more damage basically. But this is the baseline you will be starting with. Again, Berserk pretty strong. You say, oh, it's enabled. No, it's disabled, because that's cheating. I could say 4.7 with like basic gear. No, 3.2 million, which is quite good. but still, it's cheating. We get Blood Rage, Molten Shell, and Vulnerability. I self-cast in this build, but you can get a Curse Ring, probably a Corruption on gloves. You could, if you have sockets, you could do Vengeance setup with Hex Touch and Vulnerability, because we always get hit. Cast when damage taken, I keep at level 1, which means Molten Shell can be at level 10. Leveling Molten Shell just gives you more armor, and we already got a lot of armor with Flask, like 128k. So that's not a problem. Precision early on you use on your mana, but later on you use Arrogance, because we're going to be needing that mana reservation for other auras, which are Pride, Determination, War Banner, and Arctic Armor. Arctic Armor you use at the end, it's just added physical damage mitigation and fire damage and freeze immunity. It's a really good aura. Early on, this is this set. Early on you can enable the set, disable this one, and it's gonna basically just turn Arctic Armor off. I did it this way so it might be more clear for you. Again, Boneshatter, the totems, multiple totems, and we do use Panopticon with the lingering effect, so that's a lot of damage. And if you have enough sockets, then Vengeance with Rage on hit support. It's just basically a way to generate rage faster. It's not compulsory, but it's still a good utility. And now let's talk about items. There's a lot, there's quite a lot, in fact, because I've been playing that build so many times that I kind of found different ways of making the build improving or not, depending on the league mechanic. So I use gear sets that have the exact same name as a passive tree here. So for example, no Brass Dome setup. You reached map, you're in, I don't know, yellow, red maps. This is what you want to follow at the start. No Brass Dome setup, you pick up the same skill tree. And this is basically the gear. Yes, the axe has a lot of DPS, but it's basically to show you that fizz damage, flat fizz, attack speed, if you can get accuracy, so what? That's good. You could get impale and fizz damage from a Veiled Chaos Orb, which changed this league. If you do so and get enough impale chance, you don't have to take these nodes. You can either spec out 2 life nodes and take 5 nodes here for damage, or these 3 nodes here are pretty good just for 3-pointers. That's another option. Other than that, they're labeled. Most of them are labeled unless I use them in 2 gear sets, like no Brass Dome setup, Nightmare Bassinet. You see what kind of stats you want. Of course, you're not gonna get that first on your first helm, for example, but that's what you want to strive for. The socket color I just didn't care about, but you color the gems just so your socket fits, obviously. So the boots with suppression, a Stygian Vise with searching eye jewel or whatever, Abyss jewel. What I like doing with the Stygian Vise is putting my corrupted blood immunity on the jewel on this jewel. I just find it slightly easier to get, especially if you farm a lot of Abyss. And then once you move up, if you do not want to use Brass Dome, you can still do no Brass Dome setup. But let's say you want to use cluster jewels, no Brass Dome with cluster, boom, 3 changes. You have your cluster. You have other nodes that have in respec, but overall the damage is higher with the same tankiness or slightly more. I don't quite remember. But yeah, basically this is what you do. Or let's say you're like me, you like having more defense than last time. You can choose Brass Dome setup, and boom, you have Brass Dome, you resist, everything is fine. You have the skill tree. I don't think it changes much, but it might. I just want always to make it separate so it's clear that you are looking at the right thing. Again, you can do Uber Brass Dome cluster or no cluster, because there's a Uber Brass Dome setup, which is basically better gear. And then you can go and do Uber Brass Dome cluster level 100 and whatnot. So this is how I work with the gear. And there's also tier 1 maps, like I said, just to show you what kind of gear you want. And for the skill trees, there's also a starting tree. With your first lab, you take Undeniable. Cruel Lab, you go with Unstoppable. Merc Lab, you take Untiring. And finally, there's no one for Uber Lab because it's just whatever setup you want to choose. So no Brasdom setup. You take Unbreakable. And you have your nodes. That's how I work with the skill trees and the items. There's slightly more items that are unused. And I didn't put every single options you have, but for example, a Watcher's Eyes, if you manage to get a good one, like for example, this one is really good. You're probably not gonna get that, but it's just an example of stats you might want. Percentage additional physical damage reduction with Determination is always good, because we hit ourselves with fist damage. Impales last 2 additional hits, that's great. You can get a Lethal Pride, which is used at some point. I don't remember which 3, probably this one. Lethal Pride. And again, I'm gonna leave in the description. There's a good website to like pick your timeless jewels, but you can do it inside POE. But basically, you put it here because we have a lot of notables, and you want double damage. Strength is not bad, but I mean it's double damage. Physical damage from hits taken as fire is good for more defense. Yeah, this one has double damage again, so you kind of see what you're aiming for, and it's a lot of damage. So that's basically it. I'm not sure if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. I mean, the flasks, even though the new elemental flask, Ruby, Topaz, and Sapphire give max res, we're still probably gonna stick with a Granite and a Basalt because our Ascendancy scale with armor for elemental damage reduction as well as physical slightly. It kind of works like spell suppression. It's not as good though, but we still take spell suppression. So, and as soon as you want to switch to Boneshatter while leveling, make sure you have Inexorable first, because you're going to be hitting yourself, generating end-range charges, which is going to be more than enough early on to just sustain not dying from self-damage from Boneshatter. And normally I switch after Normal Lab, because we do get a good node with attack speed, and since Boneshatter, we're not going to be using multi-strike with Boneshatter. The more attack speed you get, the better. And we don't have the like divergent quality. It's been canned last league, so we can get like impressive attack speed, but it's still gonna be fine. And I use hybrid gear most of the time because I want armor, but you can just use evasion gear at the start because it's easier to roll suppression, because we do take that keystone to just get a lot more armor. And I don't think there's anything else. Yeah, precise technique I've mentioned. Make sure you have more accuracy than life. And yeah, that's basically it. This is the build. It's pretty similar to previously, but it's still gonna be as good. And who knows, with the new mods we're gonna get on gear, it might even be better. I know we saw just a few, but one of them is like a big percentage damage taken recouped as life on the chest. That might be good for us because we are always taking damage. We're regenerating a shit ton of health because of our Ascendancy, which is Untiring, I believe. I saw like over 10k a second regen with a lot of trauma stacks. That's just a great build, and you guys know it. You guys have probably been playing it for a while as well. So let me know down in the comments if you've played my build, my version of the build before, if you liked it. And let me know your experience with it in the previous leagues or this league. And I might put out another build guide. I still have work to do on the character because I want to make sure it's sustainable up to tier 16 maps. Not quite sure, but worst case scenario, I'm going to be league starting that, and you guys can just come over to Twitch and see what I'm doing with the other project. But I'll keep you guys posted on YouTube. If you see the video, then that means I had time because I'm quite busy lately. So again, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great league start, and I'll see you in the next video.